Well, hey guys, Owen here, and this is my kids' playroom. Welcome to my house. So there's a lot of mess in here because they're always playing with toys. At any rate, I do apologize if this is a day later than I was expecting, but I did want to give you some feedback about our discussions. We had 3 discussions over the last 2 weeks, and I wanted to kind of go over them with you, talk about how I grade them. But first, let's do the fun stuff. Let me talk about just kind of what you guys had to share, going over 3 of these. And I'm going to do this as quick as I can, but there is a little bit to cover here, so this will be a slightly longer than normal video. So for the flood comparison discussion, first of all, I thought you guys had fantastic categories. You thought of great things to talk about. You had great comments about all of them. And I just really also wanted to say that I appreciate your thoughts on my question. I think I have an answer for that for myself, but I've always kind of wondered, well, why did he get chosen and those sorts of things. So thank you for chiming in on that. I really appreciated everyone's contributions to that thread. There was a question that I wanted to throw an answer out to. It says, why kill the animals in the Genesis story if humans were the people doing bad? I can give you the traditional answer to that question from both Judaism and Christianity's point of view is that the fall of man in Genesis 3 didn't just create a bad society of humans, it actually bent the entire world. That's how it's been traditionally understood. You don't have to agree with that. I've even seen it in like a children's Bible where it has where they're retelling the story and they say, Eve ate the apple, and then there was thunder, and a lion bit an antelope. I mean, it's not exactly like that, but something like that. The idea that the whole world suffered as a consequence of this fall. So, like I said, you don't have to agree with it. Just wanted to give you kind of the traditional answer to that question. All right, Revelation Q&A. You had some fantastic questions. What I want to do for this one is kind of just run through very quickly and give you the Cliff's Notes answers to the questions that didn't get tackled. Why the number 7? Because 7 is what happens when you add 3 plus 4. 3 being the number for God, representative of the Trinity. 4 being the number for the earth, like the 4 corners of the earth, the 4 cardinal directions, those sorts of things. And so when you put 3 plus 4 together, you get 7. 7 is a number in numerology that represents perfection. And so anything that has 7 attached to it is meant to have an aspect of perfection. Second question, false Trinity is animals. Why are they animals and not humans? Well, first of all, the descriptions of these animals, these are very much mythical animals, and all those descriptions have purposes. So, like, each horn is a sign of power or a kingdom, things like that. The other side of showing them as animals is that the enemy is to prove that the enemy is not human. It's a spiritual enemy, as understood by the text. Why are there 2 harvests? I can give you the traditional answer. I don't know that you should necessarily agree with it or not, but traditionally in Christianity, the answer about the 2 harvests, that the first harvest is what's called the rapture. That's where people are taken up, people who follow Christ are taken to heaven, and then the second harvest, if the first one's the rapture, the second one is the judgment, where the people who are not followers of Christ are judged. That's the way that it's been traditionally understood for probably the last few hundred years. Doesn't mean it's always that's actually the answer. So, someone said, why does God speak from multiple places? There are a couple things there. First thing is that, it could be the Trinity in action. The New Testament doesn't use the term Trinity, although the idea of Trinity is incredibly important. It's probably one of the central doctrines of all of Christianity, right next to the deity of Jesus. And so, with that, it could just be that this is the Trinity in action, God speaking from multiple places, showing He has multiple persons. The altar may be being associated with one person of the deity, etc., etc. I don't know that I totally agree with that answer. That's just the best thing I got for you right now. Side note, there was something talking about reading these things literally, and while I think that the literal historical critical method is a great way to read much of the New Testament as well as the Hebrew Bible, apocalypses in general do tend to be highly symbolic. So when it says the altar speaks, that could be symbolic. That's the reason they're translating it a voice from the altar speaking, is because that is a very symbolic way, I guess, of talking about this. It's trying to interpret the symbolism in translation. The last question for that one is the tree of life. What's up with the tree of life? Well, the book of Revelation actually alludes, it never directly references or quotes, but it alludes to the Hebrew Bible, the Old Testament, over 300 times. That's one thing that makes this book really complicated. And so the tree of life is actually a direct reference to the Garden of Eden. Back in the book of Genesis. In the book of Genesis, there are two trees in the Garden of Eden. There's the tree of life, and there's the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Adam and Eve are told not to eat from the second tree, the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. That's the one Eve eats from. The first tree, the tree of life, is supposed to be a tree that helps you live forever. And that's a tree that, of course, they were allowed to eat from while they were in the garden. It was only after they ate from the fruit of the other tree that they were banned from eating that one. So the point of showing the trees of life all next to the streams of living water and blah, blah, blah in the heavenly city in Revelation, the idea there is that eternal life has returned, the opportunity for eternal life has returned to humanity. So I really liked your questions there. I just have to be honest with you. I thought they were great. And then it's the last one. Let me just be briefly here talking about the philosophical analysis. You guys talked a little bit about afterlife, which I think is a fantastic area of philosophy of religion to discuss in regard to these texts. I'll throw a comparison out there for you, just some food for thought. The afterlife, you guys nailed it, talking about hell as far as what does afterlife look like in the what do you say? Sorry, I'm totally blanking. This is not cool. As far as talking about afterlife in the Revelation text, yes, there are two afterlives. People go to one or the other. Hell doesn't seem that nice, and heaven seems pretty nice. In fact, it's described as a place where tears are removed from people's eyes, and there is no need for a sun because God himself will light the city. There's no more curse, no more death, those sorts of things. One interesting thing is to compare that to the philosophy of afterlife in the Ragnarok story, because in the Ragnarok story, the afterlife is actually quite different. The world comes together, they fight their big fight, all the major gods die, all of their children, for the most part, live and take up their father's mantles. So the sons of Odin take over for Odin, the sons of Thor take over for Thor. And then you have some of the main bad guys still live, like Surt, and then after the battle's over, there's a new world, but it doesn't seem to be any particular special world. It just seems like, oh, it's the next one. It has the exact same. So what is the world like for afterlife and for the next world according to Ragnarok? Well, it's pretty much the same. It's not really an improvement. Although the hell and heaven there are somewhat similar to the hell and heaven in the Revelation scriptures. So at any rate, I'm about out of time. Let me just finish by talking about how I grade your discussions. The way that I grade your discussions, I look for three things. I look for the number of posts. Are you meeting the minimum requirement? Some of you guys are not posting to every discussion, and so with that, I just want to encourage you to do that. Second, I look at the timing of the posts. Are they posted in time? Because a lot of these posts and discussions are going to require your peers and yourself to comment on each other's posts, and so we need everyone's post to be up on time in order for that to happen, so keep an eye on that. And then the last piece I look for is, does it address the topic effectively? I'm not looking for a specific length. I'm not looking for like a certain magical comment. What I'm looking for is, does this post effectively address the ideas? Whether it uses a lot of words or little words. Maybe it talks about a whole bunch of things or just a few things really well. In the end, I'm looking to say, okay, are you addressing what we're talking about here? So for the philosophical analysis, does it do philosophical analysis? That's kind of what I'm looking for. So I'll be posting the grades shortly here and getting this video up here for you guys to view. I'm going to offer you some extra credit. If you watch this far in the video and you want to tell me that I am standing in my kids' playroom, just shoot me a message with that. I will add 3 points to your Revelation Q&A discussion grade, okay? So thanks and have a great day.